Namaste. I am really privileged to talk on this title, The Way You Do Anything is the Way You Do Everything. This is a very favorite statement of mine. And of course, I am going to talk about this statement in the light of the book I Promise by Brother C. G. Naradasa. I consider I Promise to be a very practical and helping kind of a book for every theosophist, every human being, every child. This title, The Way You Do Anything is the Way You Do Everything, is a very important and meaningful statement. And this will give each of us a chance to reflect on how we are approaching things in life, the way of our own being, how are we handling situations, and what are we putting into our day-to-day living. That is, for a purposeful life. You all know that we have got this life to live to its fullest, give our best efforts and perceive the truth. Divine qualities give us strength. Each divine quality helps us to stay enthusiastic, first of all. It increases our energy levels. It gives a broader understanding of life. And it makes us able to face conflicts and resolve problems peacefully. That is why how to live is very important. We all have different ways of doing things. And we are so much habituated in doing things in certain our own ways. The way we talk, do our daily duties, handle situations, solve problems. These are all examples of how we do. And if we closely observe, we will find this, and we also can know how each one of us is on his or her own way. We all are so different and so unique. That is why observation is very much needed. This will help us to know our habits, our qualities, our responses to things, our surroundings, to people. And one more thing, how questioning our mind is. A questioning mind can only seek, and a seeking mind will receive. So it all starts from within and definitely not outside. We all know that all answers are available within us, right here, in this very moment, in our surrounding, but we do not give that much time. We do not pause. We do not look at things. We can talk non-stop with friends. We can surf the internet. We can do many other things which are not very important in life. But if it comes to right discussion, we don't have time. We are very short of time. One more aspect which I have observed is, we all get carried away by what we do not have and never get a chance to cherish what we have. And hence, in the surrounding we see so much of frustration, fearfulness, anxieties. So we have to shift our paradigm actually. Once we shift the paradigm of looking at things, we will see what a beautiful world we have around us and how much positivity is there. As we all grow day by day, we will realize the impact of positive, healthy qualities in our life. Realization is more important than facts. It is more important than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It's more important than appearance, giftedness or skill. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our source. We call it divine, God, supreme soul, or whatever we choose to. Each of us has great potential. Let us turn this potential into action, into performance. So much potential is there, but it all goes untapped. As all of us have learned, Theosophy has provided us 3 beautiful platforms. Through study, meditation and service, we can unfold our potential. This is called self-unfoldment. We all have a purpose in life. The sooner we realize it, the more meaningful our life will become. The light of supreme life will shine through us. And as I refer to this book, I Promise, which basically tells us how this supreme light shines through us. If you have read this book, you would recall, or if you have not read this book, I would request you all to please go and read this book whenever you get some time. This talks about four beautiful qualities. Through our looks, through our words, through our thoughts, and through our actions. When our body and mind are clean and pure, the light will be brightly visible and the shining will be brighter. The light is all the time reflecting in us and making each of us a little mirror. Let us keep this mirror clean and keep shining all the time. Now coming to the first quality, bright looks. Bright looks is all about being cheerful, being positive, giving out shining vibes. We might be seeing many such people around us whose presence itself is so soothing, and it creates such a positive environment. We all tend to be attracted to happy faces than people who are gloomy, dull, or kind of negative. We must remember that we have evolved from minerals to plants to animals to humans, and it is our duty, yes, it is our duty to keep the spark of supreme energy be vibrant in us. And let us spread brightness wherever we go. That is about bright looks. Even simply keeping a smile on our face will add to that brightness. No matter what the situation is. A smile is the simplest expression we can carry with us. How do we channelize our supreme energy which is already flowing in us? You all know a channel, what does it do? A channel takes water from a river to send to many places. Each of us should be like that. We should help in the energy flowing through us to reach out to others. Let us be like windows through which the supreme energy will shine. The light of the sun shines through the window when the window is open, and when the window is clean. If a room is dark and there are people in it, they are likely to hurt each other if they move about quickly. But if there is a little light, they can see and behave more kindly. Each of us should be like an open window through which the light shines to the world. We should keep checking on our openness and cleanliness. These two things. If we really want to look bright, we should be open and clean. Not just from outside, from within. Now our second quality is brave words. I'll tell a quote here. Words are the vibrations of nature. Therefore, beautiful words create beautiful nature. And ugly words create ugly nature. This is the root of the universe. Who said this? Dr. Masaru Emoto. These beautiful quotes come from him. Dr. Emoto was a Japanese businessman, an author, and a scientist who claimed that human consciousness can affect the molecular structure of water in his book, The Hidden Messages in Water. In his book, Dr. Emoto demonstrates how water exposed to loving, benevolent, and compassionate human intention results in aesthetically pleasing physical molecular formations in the water, while the water which is exposed to fearful, discordant human intentions results in disconnected, disfigured, and unpleasant physical molecular formations. Of course, he did this through magnetic resonance analysis technology and with a very high-speed photographing. His research also showed us how polluted and toxic water, when exposed to prayer and intention, can be altered and restored to beautifully formed geometric crystals found in clean and healthy water. Dr. Emoto also studied how sound affects water. The Emoto music studies demonstrate how certain types of sound, like classical music, generate beautiful crystalline patterns, while a heavy metal music will generate ugly and distorted crystalline formations. Now see, If water is affected by the words, intention and energy, sound and everything, what about we human beings? We all are made of mostly water, right? So this quality of words, brave words, good words is to be observed for our own self and for the surrounding, because it all starts from our own self-talk. If we cannot have a healthy, positive, motivating self-talk, it is most likely that we will not use positive words in general. What am I talking to my own self all the time will obviously reflect. That is why the way I talk anytime, the way I will talk every time. So self-talk is very important. How we talk to our own self is definitely going to help us in how we are going to talk to others. In many situations, most of the people tend to get into a loop of frustration, depression, negative emotions, and that loop binds them, and it gets difficult to come out of that. Speaking good words, brave words will bring encouragement, positivity, possibilities, and a healthy state of mind, of course. The way we treat ourselves will make us how we treat others. So let us be more observant what kind of words we are using in general. I'll give you an example here. In our day-to-day transactions, in our conversations, mostly you will see when someone is narrating a bad experience, all negative notions and problems are focused. People around him will generally start going with the flow and add more negativity notions. And the narration will go into a very depression and a frustrating mode. More negative direction it will take. And for a chance, if you could just try, if you are in that group of people, if you take up the conversation consciously to a level where you speak about possibilities, alternatives, solutions, the very problems they have been talking about for so long, the moment you twist the direction, you say, oh, this is it. I think we can try this. Oh, I understand this is a problem, but I think it has a solution too. The moment you take charge of the direction, no doubt you will change the direction of narration and more positivity will be created. Please go and try this. You should have done it, I think, sometimes, and you would have realized this also. The very moment you join the negative flow, you would attract all negative things into your life. You will just pile up more negative thoughts into it. That is the power of words. And this needs a good practice. If you really want to use good words, we have to do a rigorous practice to use good words. The more we use powerful, possible, positive words, the more we will create a vibrant surrounding. Be it our own self-talk, with our family and friends, in the society we live in, wherever we go. The third quality is joyous thoughts. When we talk about joy, the very simple expectation is we all want to be happy. But do we really see much happiness around? We don't see much happiness around. Why? The sun is always shining, but something comes between the light of the sun and the earth and a shadow is cast. If our windows are not clean, we will not get the shining light of the sun. Similarly, if there is something which is making our life miserable, we should know what is that and who's responsible. We already know that we are responsible for what we are today because of our past deeds, our own past deeds. So why worry? Rather, let us observe what we are going to do now, what we are doing now, and how we are going to create a better tomorrow. Every time there is something or the other disturbs us and tries to change our state of joy to a state of misery, let us ask why. 5 times why is a beautiful diagnosis of our symptoms of unhappiness, and this will give us the correct mental and emotional state of ours. We are responsible for our happiness, we are responsible for our unhappiness too. There are 3 qualities of joy. What are these? Purity, peace, power. Now purity comes from pure thoughts. Peace comes from positive feelings. Power comes from good deeds. So it all starts from thoughts, then feelings, then deeds. If we start observing, we will find that our thoughts, feelings and deeds are so tightly bonded, so much interlinked. And let me tell you, nothing happens randomly. For every deed, every action, there is a thought or feeling in the background. And for every single thought, you would see that it will transform into a specific action. So if we really want to have joyous thoughts, we should check on these three qualities of joy. Our thoughts have their own frequencies and they will attract similar thoughts. So it is up to me, in my hand, what kind of thoughts I want to keep. I will set the frequency. Let us be very, very watchful about it. Some of the practices which will keep us in a joyous state of mind, we can at least start doing with our own self. I have just kind of taken out certain points, which I generally do also. So I'll kind of share that. Counting our blessings. There is so many things around us we should be grateful for. We are so blessed and life is so kind to us in many aspects. Can't we look at it? Can't we really be happy about it? Can't we really be thankful about it? Happiness of what I have than the sadness of what I do not have. You know, the very thought of not having something should be replaced with what I have to cherish as quickly as possible. Otherwise, it's very dangerous. It's like a cancer. And how am I going to do it? When I'm going to do it? I am going to do it not just for a day, but for every single day. I will be grateful. I will be happy. For the morning, I'll be very happy. I woke up. I have a day to live. I have got things to, be grateful for. So why shouldn't I be happy? Now, acceptance of everything as is also another thing. Acceptance is the key to be happy, to be patient, to be practical. Accepting self is the beginning of the change. Many times we do not accept our own self, forget about others. We really do not even accept our own self. So acceptance is the key to be happy. And also claiming no special treatment. I keep on telling this very often, you all know it. In many of my talks I have referred this. The moment we claim or expect special treatment, we originate disappointment and sorrowfulness. It's a fact, practically. Treating everyone equal and respecting the uniqueness of each is more helping than unnecessarily getting into a state of comparison and negative competition. It's better to not claim a special treatment. And also, observation with detachment. This is very, very important. Initially, it might be difficult, but let me tell you, it's really, really helpful. This is very, very important. All that we do with respect to observation about our own selves will be fruitful the moment we detach the sense of I-ness. We will be more accepting and it will be very easy to handle all situations. We will be able to see our own self objectively without any attachment. So how do you practice it? You don't say yourself, I have to do this or I am learning this. You start saying, Suvlina, you have to do this. Now Suvlina is going to do this. Suvlina is not feeling good. So you would start looking at your own self objectively. You will be your own master. Do it and you will really have fun. You will really grow your own self. This is all in your hand. Mind development is in my hand. The moment I detach the I from my the very being, it's so flowing, it's so natural. I will be kind to myself, compassionate to myself, loving to myself, strict with myself also, because I am now an object. There is no I-ness, nothing to be emotional about it. Nothing to be fearful about it also. Because Suvlina is an object now. And Suvlina is my baby, I am growing her up. How beautiful it is, see? And it's very easy to do. Now coming to, when I'm talking about doing things, let us touch upon the fourth quality, knightly deeds. We all know who were knights. They were young nobles who took oaths of service way back in England. And now we all have read about knights and their all contributions to the then society and all. What did they do? They took oaths of service for protecting virtues, putting down oppression and abolishing evil things. Now in today's world, our conditions have somehow changed, but we still need knights as there are still many kind of injustice. We need men and women who are brave, who will come forward to do knightly deeds to put an end to misery and injustice. Now, before we talk about knightly deeds, I thought I should be talking about some unknightly deeds and some contemporary examples of unknightly deeds. It might sound very funny or it might sound very petty, but these are the petty things we should take care of. First thing is when our actions cause discomfort to others. People smoke in public place. People break a queue. People spit in the public. I think these are very unknightly deeds, because unknightly deeds means selfish deeds. I am causing discomfort to others. I am a selfish fellow. And I am saying that I will be doing knightly deeds. Forget about it. The second aspect is carelessness. When we are indifferent to what is happening around, to the environment, to people, like plants, animals, everything, we keep on littering, we keep on spoiling, we keep on abusing, we are so careless. And how we are going to be nice? How we are going to take charge of this beautiful world when you are selfish and careless? And also we break commitment. Another aspect of not being so knightly. When we do not regard our own words and others' time. Commitment is about my own word to somebody and the other person's time and energy invested in me. If I break my commitment, I even do not reach on time on certain appointed event, I break a commitment. This is what I'm talking about. Let me face it. What is I'm doing and what is that I'm not doing. Some fetters and qualities if I talk about, laziness and cowardice are the two biggest fetters for not being knightly. Laziness means physically and mentally not ready for something. And then cowardice means when we are very much anxious about uncertainty and fearful, as if we are the only one being in this entire universe. There is no one else existing. That is very cowardice. I'm so fearful about, I'm so protecting about myself. These are biggest fetters. And what are the qualities then? Obviously, bravery, when I'm fearless to do anything, and I'm noble. Nobility towards a greater cause than my own petty selfish I to a greater we. I'll tell you two stories here, very, very motivating stories. I hope all of you know about the mountain man. His name is Dashrath Manjhi. He also is known as Mountain Man. There's a movie on him. He was a laborer from Gaya in Bihar. He was a flag bearer of social justice. When his wife died due to injury caused by falling from a mountain, he decided to carve a path of around 360 feet long and 30 feet wide through a ridge of hills using only a hammer and a chisel. After 22 years of work, Dashrath Manjhi shortened travel between the Atri and Wazirganj blocks of Gaya from 55 km to 15 km, 15 km. When he started hammering the hill, people called him a lunatic. But that steeled his resolve. Though mocked for his efforts, Manjhi's work has made life easier for people of his village. What a great deed. And coming to the other story about Sindhu Tai, a very, very motivating story, my all-time favorite. Born in a cattle-grazing family in Maharashtra's Wardha district, abject poverty, family responsibilities, and an early marriage. Forced her to quit formal education after she successfully passed the 4th standard. And at the age of 12, she was married to a man 20 years her senior. Post-marriage, she faced a difficult life, but she did not lose hope. In her new home, she fought against the exploitation of local women who collected cow dung by the forest department and landlords. This only made things more difficult for her. She bore 3 sons by the time she turned 20. At the age of 20, when 9 months pregnant, she was bitten badly and left to die by her husband. She gave birth to a baby girl in that semi-conscious state and struggled to stay alive in a cow shelter outside their house that night. She had to set aside the thought of suicide and started begging on railway platforms for food. In this process, she realized that there were so many children abandoned by their parents, and she adopted them as her own and started begging even more vigorously to feed them. She decided to become a mother to anyone and everyone who came across to her as an orphan. And later also she donated her biological child to a trust, only to eliminate the feeling of partiality between her own daughter and the adopted ones. She has devoted her entire life to orphans. She has nurtured over more than 1,000 orphan children. Many of the children whom she adopted are now well-educated lawyers, doctors, and some of them, including her biological daughter, are also running their own independent orphanages. And at the age of 80, her husband came back to her apologetically. She accepted him as her child, stating that she's only a mother now. In person, she comes across as an unlimited source of energy and very, very powerful inspiration, with absolutely no negative emotions or no blaming to anyone. She recites motivational lines to inspire the society. What a great deed. From both the stories we see where there is a broader vision, more hope and faith, and there arises the importance of serving to others. When we serve others, our own problems appear small and we can handle them better. It will help us to cope better with setbacks in life. So let us create our ways, our own ways of doing things which will bring strength, peace, power and unlimited joy. I have made a list of small acts of wonders. Share. Whatever we learn and experience, we should share. There is this 3-step way to it. Seek, know, share. Somebody who is a seeker must know someday, sometime. And somebody who knows must share. Sharing is a must. Including people. Everyone is same and everyone has the potential to do something great. So let us include people. Let us also respect people. Respect others' views, their opinions, their interests. We should become a co-creator. We should help everyone we meet in life. Each of us is an angel to someone, if not to everyone. At least for somebody you are an angel. So we can start thinking what way can we help others and what is that we can give to others. And also a supporting mind we should be having. Readiness to listen. Again, there is a statement around it. I kind of made it out of fun, but it really works. Seeing is believing. I mean, to see is to believe. We all know this. Now I extended this. Seeing is believing. Doing is knowing. When you do, then only you know. And feeling is understanding. When you feel for others, then only you understand others. So seeing is believing, doing is knowing, and feeling is understanding. And before I conclude, I would like to highlight one beautiful aspect of living life, that is, whatever you give value, be it a thought, an action, a feel factor, you must try to live that value. Simply saying that I value this or I value that, it will not have any meaning if I don't apply that in my life. The way we do a particular thing will reflect everywhere. For example, if you are truthful, let's say I am truthful, it will be a way of my life and I can never behave otherwise no matter what happens with me. Some people are so timely, they give value to being on time and they will behave so in every single commitment. It's more of a habit how we do things. All the qualities we see around in people are nothing but habits. And yes, it requires discipline to nurture habits. So qualities are nothing but habits. Values are nothing but habits. It's like you keep on practicing. We listen to very old singers. They are so beautiful. They are so beautifully singing till date. Why? Because they keep practicing every day. We call it riyaz. They keep practicing. The values of our life, the motives of our life, the beautiful qualities we are blessed with need practicing, need riyaz. So let us remember all the 4 qualities we discussed. Bright looks. Let us become a window through which the light of sun shines. Brave words. Let us not speak ill about others. Find out the best in people because words give us strength. joyous thoughts. Let us keep positive thoughts, welcome more positivity. And of course, knightly deeds, fighting for a good cause, greater cause. And of course, let us not run away from our source. Let us gain this knowledge by which we can face challenges, get fearless, gain courage, perform our duties and live life, not just spend time. There is a definitely difference between the spending of time and living of life. Let us exchange positive energy to create something better, something memorable, something which stays with all of us forever. And once we start preparing, the path will show up. Once we are ready, our guide will appear. And we'll have a great journey ahead. Thank you so much. Namaste.